Where I'm standing right now is the borderline for 3 congressional districts that extend well beyond the Austin area. Lloyd Doggett district goes all the way down to San Antonio.
A primetime address will be live streamed across the state.
That's a frozen solid piece of ice right here. A couple protesters did light a flag on fire. Shortly after that, however, that's when protesters crossed the I-35 service road. They marched up this ramp to get onto I-35. The entire roof and the side of the second floor was just ripped off. You can see people are starting to clean up. Many homes look just like this. If you're suspicious of a profile on a dating app, take a screenshot of that profile, then reverse image search. Instead, they're staying indoors. It looked like then. You could see it was clogged with bicycles, boxes, other personal possessions, but today it's completely cleaned out. She was running here on this roadway where there are many homes. She just disappeared, leaving behind. Send it back to that mass cam shot so you can see that divot where that explosion happened. This tropical tree looks more like Jack Nicholson from The Shining. It's just frozen solid. Use mosquito dunks like this, just throw them into the water. Gas is trapped in the soil. The FBI released a statement earlier expressing concern over the possibility of copycats in the wake of this shooting, as well as the one up in Dayton, Ohio. They're really urging everyone at home, if you see anything suspicious, to go ahead and report that. Meanwhile, back here on scene, this memorial in front of the entrance of the Walmart parking lot has grown significantly. They're obviously paying attention to see where the moderates, where the independents, where the undecided voters are going to vote. Do you plan on giving the Lieutenant Governor his award money? He has been seeking out.
Just go, don't ask me a stupid question. I didn't come here to take stupid questions from the media. It's ridiculous.
Two or three have admitted to.
I just answered your question.
2 or 3 have admitted to voter fraud there.
Question.
Governor Greg Abbott took a page out of former President Donald Trump's playbook by promising Texas will build a wall of its own on the border. I want to bring your attention to what we're seeing out here. Both pointed to gaps in Trump's wall, which are very visible from where we're standing right here, claiming they need to finish it to maintain safety. However, a landowner we spoke with who already has had land taken away for the Trump wall tells me this danger they speak of is exaggerated, and he's afraid even more of his land will be taken away for the governor's project.
That's right there, no lights or anything.
Jose Cavazos is pointing to his family's property just beyond these orange barriers where former President Donald Trump's unfinished wall on the Mexico border now stands. His family has owned land here in South Texas along the Rio Grande River for decades, though it has shrunk in recent years after the government took some for this wall.
So far they've taken 6.5 acres.
Cavazos worries it could be worse after Governor Greg Abbott announced earlier this month Texas will build its own wall.
There's always that in the back of my mind that they might decide to do more things out there.
On Wednesday, Abbott and Trump toured the unfinished wall in South Texas after a briefing. They have criticized President Joe Biden for the spike in border crossings this year after he ceased construction of Trump's wall in his first day in office.
You see, an unfinished border. This is Biden's fault because President Biden is not continuing what President Trump began.
We produced the safest, best border we've ever had. And now, in a short period of time.
With 4 months left in this fiscal year, there have been more than 920,000 border encounters just in the southwest sector, which includes Texas, more than double than all of last year. However, critics of the wall say these numbers are inflated because Trump's pandemic asylum ban encouraged migrants to keep trying to cross because getting caught did not have legal consequences. Abbott and Trump disagree.
We did a job like nobody thought was possible.
President Biden needs to start right there and finish building the border wall.
Critics also point to the potential cost of Abbott's wall, as Trump's wall has already cost taxpayers $15 billion or $20 million per mile. Abbott has ordered $250 million from the state budget to be used as a down payment, which he justifies as the cost to ensure public safety.
I cannot tell you the number of people who have told me that they've had guns brandished in their faces.
Cavazos says that money could be better spent elsewhere since he has not felt this danger he speaks of.
We don't understand why he's spending this money for something that's useless. It's not going to help at all. Never had people put a gun into my head.
Hidalgo County, which is where Abbott and Trump toured today, was one of a handful of border counties taken off the governor's disaster declaration earlier this week. Now, they were taken off the disaster declaration because they have not declared a local disaster and did not want to cooperate with the state's efforts. So far, only 9 of the 28 counties included still in that disaster declaration are even on the border with Mexico. Reporting live at the Texas-Mexico border, Flores, CBS Austin News.
The fight between Wimberley ISD and parents continues tonight after the ACLU files a grievance against the school district. At issue is an altered Wimberley High School logo used during an LGBTQ pride parade.
CBS Austin's Flores exclusively obtained that grievance letter. He joins us live tonight. Christian, this is really reaching a tipping point for parents.
The reason for this grievance is because Wimberley ISD has not yet retracted the letter sent home to all parents back in December, warning them to take down images of the altered logo or else face legal consequences, even though the district has allowed certain local businesses in this city to use the high school logo for commercial purposes. Lawyers with the ACLU say this is an intimidation tactic and a violation of the First Amendment.
Why do you persist so hard with the rainbow colors?
Brian Burke is not sure why Wimberley ISD has not backed out of a dispute over this altered Wimberley High School logo designed for the city's first ever LGBTQ pride parade in September. The ACLU filed a grievance against the school district on behalf of Burke, whose daughter is a student at Wimberley High School and a member of the LGBTQ community.
And the reason why this group of parents created the logo in the first place was to support LGBTQ kids in the school district. And that's it. There was no profit being made from it.
This grievance is in response to a letter Wimberley ISD sent to all parents in December, informing them they have trademarked the logo and will send out cease and desist letters to anyone who does not take down images of the altered logo on social media or elsewhere. Earlier this month, we first told you about the letter the ACLU sent to the district, asking them to retract this letter. They still have not.
The district has already chilled people's First Amendment rights. People who have put up this logo to express support for LGBT students a lot of them have already taken it down for fear of legal retaliation and lawsuits being filed against them.
That has an oppressive effect on those who are exercising their free speech.
Through a public records request, we learned Wimberley ISD spent more than $16,000 between the trademark and lawyers' fees on all matters regarding the logo since September. We have repeatedly asked for an interview with Superintendent Dwayne York, but in each update to this story, he said he was not available. I even emailed him questions more than a week ago, but have not received answers to those questions, with York's lawyers worried about violating the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. We spoke with York briefly over the phone today. He says he cannot comment on the grievance. Now, York has 10 business days to set a hearing date with Burke and the ACLU.
They didn't go for a trademark and copyright and make all these efforts to shore up this logo before.
If this still is not resolved after a hearing with the superintendent, the ACLU plans to file an appeal to get a hearing with the school board. They may or may not take action on this. Reporting live in Wimberley, Flores, CBS Austin News.
I hope we never have to get to a place where we tell teachers what they can and can't talk about.
State Representative Steve Toth says his bill on the state's social studies curriculum does not control what teachers can and cannot teach. But critics say this is exactly what it does by banning critical race theory. While House Bill 3979 does not mention the term critical race theory, he and other supporters have spoken out against the academic movement, writing in measures banning key aspects of it. For example, teachers are not allowed to teach, quote, the advent of slavery in the territory that is now the United States constituted the true founding of the United States. Education groups across the state have slammed this bill.
Why move forward with a bill like this? And despite these objections, I know, as far as I'm concerned, your background too is not in education. So why not listen to some of these associations?
We are listening to we're listening specifically to the teachers. Critical race theory tells every little white child that you have white privilege, and you either admit that you have white privilege and that you're a racist, or we will label you a white supremacist.
Focusing blame on individuals is really not what the theory is about at all.
Cassie Huff is an assistant dean for undergraduate programs at the University of Texas and says Toth's explanation is wrong. Days after the bill passed, she co-wrote this op-ed explaining why schools need to teach critical race theory.
The whole purpose of critical race theory is to think about ways we can elevate voices of color, and make sure that we're hearing voices that we haven't traditionally heard and dismantle systems of racism. We're really kind of doomed to just repeat the same mistakes. If you don't acknowledge and talk about then we're just going to leave the same voices out over and over again.
Ken Zarefis, the president of the Austin ISD Employees Union, agrees, saying the bill minimizes the impact of slavery on the country.
It's appalling, and it's heartbreaking as an educator to think that the legislature doesn't want people to hear truth. And that's all it is. It's about truth. Sometimes it's an ugly truth.
This bill also states teachers should not be compelled to discuss current events, and if they do, they must not show they support one side. Opponents of this provision specifically brought up the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol when fighting this. Additionally, students cannot get course credit for volunteering or working with a group associated with political activism or public policy advocacy. This would ban students from getting credit for working at places like the Boys and Girls Club or the Humane Society, among others.
The only thing that we're simply saying is that teachers should not proselytize when they're talking about current events. What we're simply saying is that don't weaponize our children. Don't use our children for your ends.
Zarefis taught for 12 years and says this bill makes it impossible for teachers to lawfully encourage civic engagement. He adds he would continue on with teaching all of this if in the shoes of teachers now, but knows that's easier said than done.
This will clearly have a chilling effect on teachers, afraid to teach what's truth. So it's going to be a process of teachers realizing that it's important that you listen to your students, not legislators.
How concerned are you for the school children of Texas?
I'm concerned whenever information is limited. This is a nation that was built on the back of enslaved people, and it's a racist foundation. Our kids need to understand that.
At the Texas Capitol, Christian Flores, CBS Austin News.